Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the India Today Mumbai Conclave. 3 years ago, this city and indeed large parts of the country on television were almost riveted to one story. And one woman was at the center of it all. Some saw her as a vamp, many saw her as a vamp, some saw her as a victim. She was caught in a story which seemed to take unimaginable leaps. She was accused of abetting suicide, at times of murder, and eventually charged with financing and harboring drug trafficking. She has finally not only got bail, but the Narcotics Control Bureau did not challenge her bail in the Supreme Court. She's now doing MTV roadies, hopefully a few films, but she was 3 years ago at the center of the Sushant Singh Rajput case. She's gone to hell and back. Please welcome Rhea Chakraborty.
Well, Rajdeep, meeting you again under different circumstances, huh?
Meeting me in very different circumstances. I want to tell this audience, I met Rhea Chakraborty for the first time and was subject to heavy trolling as a result when I did that interview. People even thought that India Today had chartered a flight to take me to Mumbai. The truth was, it was COVID times. I was wearing a PPE suit in the middle seat, SpiceJet late night flight, because I thought that we needed to hear Rhea Chakraborty's story. And I'm going to play a little bit at the start from that interview. Before I ask my first question, just look at Rhea Chakraborty, August 27th, 2020.
मुझे बताया गया कि उनके फ्यूनरल में, उनकी लिस्ट में मेरा नाम नहीं है. इंडस्ट्री के काफ़ी लोगों का नाम था और मुझे उनसे पता चला कि मैं बिल्कुल नहीं जा सकती हूँ क्योंकि मेरा नाम नहीं है और वो लोग मुझे वहाँ नहीं चाहते.
कौन नहीं चाहते?
उनकी फैमिली. मुझे
That's a long time ago.
Right.
What's changed between the Rhea Chakraborty then and the Rhea Chakraborty I see in front of me today?
Well, you invited me to the conclave today, didn't you? I wasn't being invited to things then. I'm being invited to things now. That's a very big change. But beyond that, Rajdeep, firstly, thank you for interviewing me then and giving me a platform to, have my story out there when everything was one-sided. I always believe that there's two sides to a story. And not everyone believed in that day. And today, again, life has come a full circle where I'm speaking to the media after 2020 for the first time. Because I didn't think that I wanted to and I didn't think that I was ready. But now that life is moving on and I want to move on, I don't think there's any other place better than this for me, than India Today and you, of course. The new me is very different. I've been through a lot. I feel like a 80-year-old woman inside a 31-year-old woman's body, mentally at least. There's a lot of positive learning and there has been a lot of pain. Through that pain, I've had to go through a journey, and that journey could only happen if and when I decided to go through it. There's two ways when you go through something, Rajdeep. Either you go through it or you escape it and you avoid it, you don't think about it. You can become Devdas, you can choose those kind of things. But I chose to actually go through it. I doused myself in therapy. Because I believe that the only way out of a trauma is actually addressing what happened to you, what was said about you, what that was said about you, what is that thing that affected you the most, why did it affect you, why does anyone else's opinion about you matter. And in the process, I think that the real difference in the person who I am today versus the person who I was in 2020 or before that is that my inner voice is louder. It's much louder and I can hear it over and above any other voice, thousands of voices, a billion of voices, and it's the only voice to me that matters.
You're saying that's the only voice that matters to you. What you think in a way of yourself or what your family thinks of you who've stood by you through all the bad times, but you still polarize opinion. You know, there are people who, when I put this out on Twitter a little while ago that I'm interviewing Rhea Chakraborty, they said, there it is, it's going to be fixed. And Rajdeep is going to give Rhea Chakraborty a platform. There will be, you know, it'll be trending, boycott Rhea Chakraborty or boycott Rajdeep Sardesai for doing this interview. Many still see you as in some way involved in the Sushant Singh Rajput suicide case. Are you telling me none of that affects you even in this room? There could be those who will say, but you know, did she really have any role to play in Sushant's suicide? How do you respond? Can you really shut it all out?
Honestly, when I enter a room, I can see it in people's faces. I can see some people thinking, maybe she's done something. I can see some people looking at me with pity, hi bichari, kaise zinda hai. And I can see some people feeling like, oh, you know, we're rooting for her. She should go forward in her life. And I can kind of hear their thoughts. Even when I have these conversations with people, I can hear what they're saying in their mind. Sometimes they're looking at me and thinking that she doesn't seem like a criminal. And I can feel that thought. But at the same time, does it matter to me? Absolutely not. And Rajdeep, actually didn't have a choice in that matter. Because if it mattered to me, then I wouldn't have been able to sit here even today. I wouldn't have been able to walk from my house to my car and come here, dress up and sit in front of an audience and talk to a journalist. A good journalist, but a journalist, right? I wouldn't have been able to do that. I would have been taken under by anxiety, PTSD, which is post-traumatic stress disorder for people who don't know. And I would have constantly overthink what people are thinking about me.
Are you telling me that all those words that were used against you at the time, chudail hai, black magic kiya hoga Sushant par, are you telling me none of that has had any impact on you, hasn't scarred you in some way?
I kind of like the name Chudail. I think it's interesting. I think back in the day, who was a witch? A witch was a woman who did not subscribe to the patriarchal society or had her own way or had her own opinion that was against the popular opinion of men and patriarchal societies back then. Maybe I am that person. Maybe I am a Chudail. Maybe I know how to do black magic. Who knows?
Because you're wearing this jacket, Smash the Patriarchy. And I want to play a visual of when you were first called by the by the NCB, the Narcotics Control Bureau, and you wore a shirt saying, violets are blue, roses are red, let's smash patriarchy, me and you. You saw this as a patriarchal mindset that she must be the evil woman who in some way must have poisoned this wonderful young man. Is that how you saw it?
It is how it was. It is how it is. In our society, unfortunately, even today, if some man is successful and he gets married and then his success ratio drops, they're like, देखो जब से ये इसकी जिंदगी में आई है, इसका career खराब हो गया है. If he starts drinking too much, they're like, oh, जब से इसकी शादी हुई है, बहुत दारू पी रहा है. As if the man had no identity of his own before a woman. Men in India most definitely don't listen to their wives or girlfriends. Please, they don't. And if they were, then it would have been a much better society, let me promise you that. So they don't. So
I listen to my wife. I'm terrified of her.
So you're a good man, you're a smart man. So I feel like it is a patriarchal society, and which is why a lot of the things that were being said about me were in the sphere of patriarchy. That isne aisa kiya, jab se ye aayi wo badal gaya. He had his own identity before me. He was a guy who came from a small town. He made it so big in Bollywood. That is not a mind that can be controlled by, and there is no black magic in this world, actually. I just wanted to clear that.
No, because in that interview, there's something you told me which was revealing. You said you want to know the truth about what happened with Sushant. Because there were rumors flying around at the time that it wasn't suicide, it could be murder, and you wanted to know what happened to him. 3 years on, CBI hasn't moved a step forward in the inquiry, or at least not in the public domain. Do you still want to know the truth? And do you know the truth? What really happened to Sushant Singh Rajput? Why did a young man, seemingly destined for big things in Hindi cinema, commit suicide?
You know what the truth is? The truth is that mental health is not understood in this country at all. We are taking strides, and I'm happy that the youth is now talking about it, and India is moving forward in understanding mental health. But when someone who's famous has a mental health condition, people don't understand. They are like, he has fame, he has success, why is he depressed? I don't understand. Because the fact of the matter is, people are working their entire lives struggling for what? Two things, fame and money. So when they have somebody who has fame and money, but one second, he's depressed, तो मैं ये क्यों कर रहा हूँ या मैं ये क्यों कर रही हूँ? That's what not doesn't sit well with people. So mental health is completely misunderstood, or is slowly getting understood, I would like to say, and because of which it's very difficult for people to consume or digest the fact that someone who's rich and successful and famous could be mentally affected, could be depressed.
Did you know that? Do you still know the truth about Sushant? Did you know that he was mentally depressed at the time? And do you still know the truth of what took him to take his life, as many believe he did?
See, I could never know the truth of what took him to do what he did, because I don't live in his mind, contrary to popular belief. But I do know the truth about him being mentally ill. I do know the truth about what he was going through. And I'm hoping to hear the truth, and I think the agencies are doing their job, and in the right time, in the right place, they will give their verdict.
Because the fact is, you were accused of procuring and supplying drugs to him. That was the charge under which you went to jail. You spent 6 weeks in jail for that charge. Would you accept that you were, according to those who see you as a villain, exploiting his vulnerabilities in some way? Do you believe that you made certain mistakes at the time? Do you concede that you did supply drugs to him?
No. And secondly, I'm done with this topic. I don't want to talk about drugs. I don't want to talk about NCP. The matter is sub judice. I don't want to talk about CBI. Let the agencies do their job, and let us do our job, which is you talk to me about my emotional state and how the hell did I get out of that and sit on this chair today to have this conversation with you. How about that?
But the charge sheet is still there. Let's be clear, the charges are still there. Your passport is still impounded. There are lookout circulars that still exist. Your brother still is also battling it. He was also dragged into this. So it can't be that easy to say, let's not talk about it. It is still there somewhere in your life. The fact
Of
that
course
you
it's
spent
there.
6 weeks in jail, Baikala jail, accused of harboring and financing drug trafficking.
See, about harboring, I'll have to ask Pablo Escobar, but I believe he's no longer like amongst us. But the other stuff, I don't think that it affects anyone else's life but mine. I do have lawyers, and we are fighting it in the court of law, and we will get our verdict in the right time, and I will accept whatever verdict the court gives me in my case or in anybody else's case, because I'm an Indian citizen, and why the hell should I not?
What was it like? And I'll play those pictures of a young woman suddenly finding herself being hounded by cameras wherever she went. Then eventually being taken to Baikala jail, where you spent what, 6 weeks? Almost 6 weeks. What was it like for someone who came from a middle class family, father in the army, an army doctor, suddenly finds herself in Baikala jail? So from aspiring to be a Bollywood actor, you're there in jail. Give us a sense of what that period was like.
Well, jail can't be easy. Interesting it is. It is very interesting because you are removed from society. You're no longer part of society. You're put into this place because you are no longer fit to be in society for whatever reason society deems you unfit. You are no longer a person. You're given a UT number. So there's a lot of disassociation with the ego, the I, the Atman as we call it in Hinduism, that you feel and you experience. You disassociate with the personality that you are born with, or you create from 0 to 9 if we know in psychology, and you start viewing yourself as nothing. You are a number. You have to do as told. You have to eat when told. You have to stand when told. And that in itself is a very humbling experience for anyone who goes through it. And I hope to God that no one in this room ever has to go through it, or no one in this world actually ever has to go through it. But in my case, there were goods and bads. There is a initial period in jail wherein you fall. It's like you're falling from the sky into an abyss of nothingness, and there's just black around you, and you don't know where you're falling. You don't know if you're going to come out. You start losing hope. You start losing touch with people outside. You stop believing that people are fighting for you outside. You question all kinds of bizarre things. You think about, not wanting to live the life that you're living. But then there is a time came for me in jail wherein I learned a lot from seeing the women that I saw in prison. So I was in an under trial prison, Rajdeep, which is not convicted. People in under trial prison are not convicted. So they are still innocent until proven guilty. That should be the motto of the legal system in India. Innocent until proven guilty, not guilty until proven innocent. And I believe that anyone is innocent until the court passes a verdict that you are guilty. And you have exhausted all your 3 courts, and you've reached Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court has said that as well about you. So that's not happened in this jail for all the women in there and for me. So I believe they're all innocent. And I learned from them that some of them have been there for many years, 5 years, 6 years. Most of them don't even have access to lawyers, or they don't have a family support like I do, who's fighting for them and trying to get them out. And they don't have media glare, which has its cons, but the pros is that your case will be seen, will be heard. There will be a time for your story to be told as well. In that situation, I saw women suffering far worse than me, being the happiest people I've ever seen. In the 1 or 2 moments of happiness that they got, it could be a festival where the jail was providing them samosas. The way they would eat that samosa, they would gobble that samosa with happiness and passion and desperation, and I've not seen a more stronger life force in any human being around me, not even enlightened gurus. And having seen that, I realized that, we chase, मैं ये film करूँगी, ये film hit होगी, तो मैं ऐसी गाड़ी खरीदूँगी, तब मैं खुश होंगी. It's rubbish. You are given a few moments of happiness in your life, snatch them. And that's what I learned from jail. I'm here to snatch it.
I am told that on the last day, as you were leaving jail, some of your inmates, fellow inmates, asked you to dance for them. And you did a dance for them? Is that true?
Yeah, so the day I got bail, my brother didn't get bail. And I was devastated. It was the only day that I broke down entirely in jail. And I had promised all the girls ki, I'll nachungi. They were like, ab hamare liye nacho. I said, jis din bail hogi, us din nachungi. Ab bail ho gayi. But I was not happy. My heart was hurting. So I kind of refused them at first when the jailer came up to me and said, rehne do, tum mat karo. And I said, ha. But as she walked away, I said, you know what? I am leaving. And I'm probably never going to see these women again. And if I can give them that 5 minutes of happiness by putting on a dance performance for them, then why the hell not? And so I did. And it was the most ecstatic moment of my life, because we were practically doing the nagin dance on the floor. And
You all did a nagin dance in Baikala jail. I would have liked to be there as a fly on the wall.
on the floor. And the excitement and joy and happiness that I saw in these women's eyes while I was dancing for them, with them, is probably the highest point of my life till date.
Since then, you've done MTV Roadies recently, but you haven't done a film, or you haven't signed on a film, or no one's come to you and said, Rhea, we want you for a film. How has the Hindi film industry looked at you? You walk into a room with all these big producers, directors, actors. Do they also see you in some way, possibly, as the vamp out there? Do you believe that even Bollywood also judges people, much like the rest of society, very easily, and you've been judged all too easily?
I think Bollywood is also people. Like, they are also people. Some people are nice, some people are not nice, some people are judgmental, some people are empathetic. I have, however, experienced a kind side of them. As far as work is concerned, कई बार तो मैंने उनको मना किया कि मत लो मुझे फिल्म में, आप भी ट्रोल हो जाओगे. अच्छा, अभी वक्त नहीं है इतना, अभी आप मुझे फिल्म में लोगे, फिल्म ट्रोल होगी, आप ट्रोल होगे, and it won't work for the film. So that fire had to die down for someone to now probably come around and say, let's do a film together. And maybe my ambitions and my understanding of the world has changed a bit now. But having said that, to satisfy the unrequited dream of the 17-year-old me who came to Bombay City to make it in Bollywood, I'd want to make it in Bollywood.
You don't want
I would want to make it.
You still want to.
Just for her.
That dream still lives on. That you want to one day still make it in Bollywood. You think that's possible?
Dreams are not meant to be broken or crushed. I had a dream, I'll still have that dream, and I'll pursue it maybe for the rest of my life.
You know, while you chase these dreams, the question will come that how does one get closure? When you've gone through what you have, as I said, you've gone to hell and back, what will it take for Rhea Chakraborty to believe this is a closed chapter in my life? I simply look at a new world. What will that take? How do you get closure? Or have you already got it?
I don't think closure is the right word. I don't think you can get closure from something like this. The thing is that I faced a personal loss. There can never be closure on that front. It's grief. It engulfs your life at start, and then your life starts growing around it. But it always exists. It's always there in your back pocket. It's always going to rear its head from the back and be like, I'm here. I'm still there. Don't think I've gone. So I don't think I'll get closure in that sense. But has my world perspective changed? Yes. Am I willing to be inspired by life and people? And am I feeling motivated again to put on a nice dress and come and give an interview? Yes. So I think that's as good as closure as it gets for me for now.
How much of this, and I'm just going to get the cameras slowly to move to your family, how much of this strength that I see from you today, and even what I saw in August 2020, despite the fact that you broke down in between, is because you were convinced that your family was convinced that you were innocent?
All of it. I think my entire strength, resilience came from my family. My father being in the army, I think, we had that army upbringing. And I remember when, everything was at its peak. He told me, he said, in the army, when we are getting shot at, we don't lie down and go. We stand up and take the bullet on our shoulder. We take it. So take it. And even then, if you have to go, you'll go. But at least you stood up and you gave yourself a last fighting chance. So I would give it entirely to my family. If it wasn't for my mom, dad, and my brother, and even Nidhi, my friend, is here. Some of my other friends, Shibani Dandekar, Anisha, a few of my girlfriends who stood by me. We were a handful of people. And we were facing mobs the size of billions. But I think that's all you need. 3-4 people who trust you and love you. They are pillars of sanity, and you're good, you're golden.
You felt those television cameras that were entering your life were like a mob?
Yeah, they were a mob, weren't they? I felt like those cameras were guns, were they not?
Yeah, those are the pictures. You felt the camera was intruding right into your life.
It doesn't get any closer than that, even in terms of physical space.
I want to, for a moment, turn to Mr. and Mrs. Chakraborty. Mrs. Chakraborty, there's a mic that I'm going to give you there. You don't want to say a word. Your mum doesn't want to speak, but possibly your dad, who I remember was there that evening when I met you for the first time. Have you all come to terms with what what happened to your daughter and your son?
Good evening, sir. We'll never come to terms with whatever happened because no parent can come to terms with their kids being thrown in jail. But yes, acceptance, slow and steady, does come out.
Acceptance. Shobik, you're a young man who was hoping to go and do an MBA abroad. You still also have charges against you. Have you come to terms with the fact that you were thrown into jail?
I just feel like it's like a part and parcel now. It's just a part of my life which I have to get through and, go ahead with. And charges has actually charged me up even more. So I think life has, I have a long time to go ahead.
When you see your mom and dad there and your brother, who also was charged with you. I mean, have you tried to, what kind of family conversations have you had in the last couple of years? It can't be easy. They're putting up a brave front. Your mum doesn't want to speak.
Yeah. It's only natural that they don't want to speak. I think I'm very proud of them for even being here and supporting me and being in front of cameras and media, given that media was the enemy. And media was intruding into our lives and ripping us apart piece by piece and trying to destroy us for no understanding of ours. Like, we don't understand it till late. But I'm very proud of them, and I think the only reason we've gotten through this is because we've each stood by each other. Everyone had a bad day and everyone had a weak day, but as a family we had this family glue that kind of told each other, today this one is going down, so you have to let us all put down a brave front, let us all be better for this person. So we stuck together. The unity we had, we truly served under my father in that time. I believe we were like a small regiment and he was the colonel. So I would like to say, Colonel Chakraborty, it's been a pleasure serving under you.
You know, you've targeted the media. I mean, targeted in the sense
Targeted.
Okay,
Targeted.
in this interview.
You have guts, Rajdeep.
No. Okay, let me rephrase
You
that.
have guts.
Okay, you were the target of a You blamed the media for the role they played. The media vilified you. Now that you're back from hell in a way, do you still track the media as obsessively? I still see Sushant Singh Rajput trending. Justice for Sushant Singh Rajput still trends. Do you sort of observe Twitter every morning, manically, what have they said possibly about Sushant or about me? Or have you given up on the media?
I'm not on Twitter.
You're not on Twitter?
I quit Twitter. I go on Instagram sometimes to post because it's a little bit like my bread and butter. But other than that, I don't.
No, I've seen something tweet to Rhea. Is that not your side?
It is my account. It's dead and gone like years ago.
You're off social media. And you've got a hashtag or you've got a called Renew. Is that a message you're sending that this is the new Rhea that you're going to see in front of you now? That's the old Rhea. What does Renew mean?
I think it's not a message. I'm not sending a message to anybody. It was what I felt about myself. I felt that I've completely changed. My understanding about life, my understanding about, society has changed so much because of what I went through. I had friends leave me. Then there was a time I had friends who showed up who I didn't expect it from. There was a time when people didn't want to come near me. And then it was suddenly a time where it was kind of cool to know me. But come from the back door entry. Piche se aana. Then there was a time when people were very curious to talk to me. Lekin the only sawal they wanted to ask me was, jail ka khana kaise hota hai? I was like, sushi or caviar to nahi milta hai na jail mein. Itna to pata hi hoga. But people, I've seen it all, and I've seen it all really fast. And that for me has maybe left me unfazed, or indifferent is the word I'm looking for. Because I no longer get ecstatic with the small raptures, and I no longer get broken with the big failures.
During that period, even WhatsApp conversations of yours were put out in the media. Did you feel that that was a complete violation? Because even today, every now and then we see WhatsApp conversations of people in different situations coming out. Do you believe that that is a complete violation of an individual's privacy? And is it possible to be private anymore in this world?
I think privacy should not be an option. Privacy should be the norm. Everyone should have a right to a private life, unless they are actually terrorists, unless it's a matter of national security. I think every one of us here has the right to be private. We are, as individuals, are private people and public people. We choose to have certain aspects of our life trusted in the public opinion and public forum, but not certain private aspects. How would you like it if there was a camera in your bedroom with your wife? You wouldn't. In the same way, I wouldn't like it too. In the same way, if I'm texting my partner or my parent or my close friend, I wouldn't like anyone to read it.
What is, though, the biggest lesson, Rhea, that you've learned over these 3 years? Is there something you would have done differently in your life when you look back now?
I would have smashed the patriarchy way before 2020.
You want to turn around and show people that dress that you've got? It says smash the patriarchy on the side. Is that what you would have done? That you invested so much of your life in Sushant's, it was almost as if you had completely given up your life to be with Sushant. And then when something happens to him, you're seen as the villain or the vamp. Is that something you would change? For
No.
young women out there who may be deeply in love?
I think no, it's not vis-a-vis him. I think it's more vis-a-vis the conditioning that we have as women. You know, growing up, you're taught to be a good girl. A girl should dress like this, talk like this, don't drink, don't hold a glass at a party, don't do this, don't do that. Achhi ladki, gandi ladki. Arey, तुमको जो लड़की बनना है बनो. Because boys are not given this. Boys are not told कि आप ऐसे बैठो, ऐसे चलो, ये खाओ, ये मत पियो, ये मत करो. So I feel that conditioning, I would have smashed that way before. And it's not entirely, it's not one person's fault. It's in society by and large. Like I would like to tell the young girls and young women out there, please live your life the way you want to live your life. And you dressing a certain way, talking a certain way, or having a certain life habit does not make you a good girl or a bad girl.
Are you a good girl?
Most definitely not.
My final question to you, what next? What's your ambition? You've gone on the sets of MTV Roadies as a gang leader. But what next for Rhea Chakraborty? Are you still waiting for someone like a Mahesh Bhatt to come and say, Rhea, let's do a film together? Is that, as I said, where next for Rhea Chakraborty?
See, honestly, if there's one thing I've learned in 2020 is that your life doesn't go as planned. Because I certainly didn't plan to land up in jail. According to my plan, I was an actor. Hopefully, I would have been a successful actor, a more successful actor. One day I would get married, and then I would have children, and then I would do some more films. Maybe I would do mother roles, maybe I would do sister roles, but I would continue being an actor. Now, that didn't happen. So, sitting where I am sitting today, it would be stupid of me to try and tell you that, Rajdeep, मुझे लगता है ना मेरी जिंदगी में ऐसा होगा. मुझे नहीं पता. I don't know where my life is going to go. I'm just hoping that it goes to a good place. I'm hoping that the highs and the lows kind of, the summation is zero. That's the best that I can expect from it. And I'm hoping that I'm able to drown out the noise and keep the inner voice the loudest at all points.
So, when your people who are watching this interview today on TV and are already trending, Rhea Chakraborty is a killer, or Rhea Chakraborty is the Chudail as we called it. What do you want to tell all those trolls out there?
I love you too.
Really? Are you sure that you're going to be able to handle all those trolls out there?
You're going to be handling them. It's your channel. I'm
Well,
going to go home and eat matar paneer and roti.
You know, Rhea Chakraborty, it can't be as easy as you make it out to be. A girl from a middle-class family with all her dreams comes to Mumbai and suddenly finds herself in the midst of this story that catapults in various directions. But I'm glad to see you smiling. That's the big difference from the Rhea Chakraborty I saw then, who was tearful. I presume, though, occasionally, there might be a tear in the eye every now and then, or is that completely gone? Do you cry?
I cry a lot. I cry a lot. I cry in movies. I cry in sorrow. I cry in pain. I cry if anybody else, any of my girlfriends go through a breakup. I cry for everyone. I have not lost my emotions, Rajdeep. I've just become stronger. Doesn't mean I don't cry anymore. I still cry. And I think that I would like to say that people often keep saying this to me, you're a strong person, strong girl. To me, the biggest strength, and I think this is what I want Indian men and women both to understand, vulnerability is the biggest superpower one can have. It's the only power you have as a human being. And I accept my vulnerability. As I did with you last time, I'm doing with you again now.
A strong, vulnerable woman who's been to hell and back. And in a way, the fact that she's come back to speak to us so openly, I think is proof that you are really, at least in your own mind, are convinced that you have no one to answer for but your own conscience. Rhea Chakraborty, I wish you well and thank you very much for joining us. I will take the trolling and you can, in a way, smile your way and hope that better things are around the corner. Thank you very much for doing this. Rhea Chakraborty, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you, Rajdeep. Thank you for being such a wonderful audience. Thank you.